right. Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Seasons at Home. And once again, we're here with Kara Hollis. She is a Randall County Master Gardener, very smart person. And we're going to talk about the plants, your gardening, maybe some vegetables, how to prep for springtime since it seems to be coming in quite a bit early. So, Kara, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Well,
This
thank you for coming
fun.
back.
Yeah, enjoy it.
So, we are having a kind of I want to say, an early spring. I have looked a long ways out, as far out as I can with the computer models that we have, and
Right.
I'm not seeing any more freezing temperatures. Now, that doesn't mean that we won't here in the Panhandle see
Right.
something, but what are some of the things that the average person that's going to, say, go to a garden sale or a big box store needs to look for to start out for your spring season?
I would agree with you about the frost dates because usually our average frost date is the 15th. But I'm like you, I've looked as far out as I can, which is 10 days for me.
Yeah.
And I don't see any frost. But we do live in the panhandle and anything can happen. A lot of people say the safest bet is Mother's Day. And when you go to the big box store and start looking for things, I think people just need to keep in mind whatever you plant now is still susceptible to a freeze. So if you plant it, which this is probably what I'm going to do, go ahead and plant. But if it looks like it's going to freeze, you've got to get those things covered up. A milk jug, frost cloth, even a blanket, a light sheet. Sometimes will do it. So just get things that are gonna be able to withstand a little bit of heat, or just wait till after Mother's Day. A little cold, and then wait till Mother's Day.
Oh, okay. That's very good advice. What I was thinking of is there's a lot of people that are unfamiliar with hardiness zones.
Oh,
Can you
yes.
expand a little bit on that?
Yes, I can. So some people will say we're in zone 7, but we're really not. We're really in 6B because we're a little bit north, I think, but it's just unpredictable. And so I think we have to be prepared for 6B. So the hardiness zone is basically what you can grow in this area. So we cannot grow palm trees in this area like they can down, in Corpus Christi. We also can't, we don't have enough water to have some of the plants that they have up in Minnesota or even Oklahoma. They'll have a lot more water than we do. So if you look on a map, it's kind of, if it's graphed out kind of on a map, you can see where our area is. So you want to plant, whenever you buy plants, you want to make sure they are for zone. I go zone 6 is really kind of what I plan. And then, you can kind of fudge either way a little bit. But if you have something that's in zone 7 or 8, it's not going to be hardy because whenever the frost comes back in the fall, it's going to freeze and not be okay. Also, it gets hot. You've got to take into consideration the water amount, to conserve water, not just to water it all the time. So,
And we're definitely talking about outside plants.
Yeah, absolutely.
With this. You
Yes.
can grow just about anything indoors.
oh yeah, absolutely. Yes, yeah. At Carver Elementary, where we help with their greenhouse, they have a lemon tree that's been growing in there for a lime tree, maybe lemon and lime, I don't know, but they have that in there and it grows just fine because it's indoors and that environment is watched and cared for. So
Okay, yes. Well, we have a key lime tree at my house and a Meyer lemon.
Oh,
We
okay.
have them in big pots
Okay.
so that we can actually move those into the garage or into our little greenhouse during the winter
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah.
there's ways to get around the
Yes,
hardiness
there
zone.
are.
But,
There absolutely are.
you were talking about plants that will grow in our area. It's
Yes.
not just about frost, is it? It has to
Right.
do with heat,
Yes.
drought,
Yes.
stuff like that.
The drought tolerant plants, and that because we might share a hardiness zone with somebody that's a little more, they get a little more rain than we do, or a little less rain. So it's kind of an average again. You have to kind of play with it and see what will work and what won't. So yes, water, heat, frost, sun, in those hot summer months, if you have something planted on the south side of your house or the west side, it's going to get a lot more sun than something planted on the east side. So if you have something that's you want to protect a little bit, you can plant it on the east side of the house, and something that's a little like sunflowers, they're my all-time favorite, that can stand up to a little more sun, you can plant those on the west side.
Okay, so I've noticed on the west side of my
Excuse me.
house, it's all brick. So in the
Scorcher.
evening, you can feel
Oh, gosh.
the heat just radiating
Yes.
off that brick, even when the sun is behind the neighbor's house and it's
Yeah.
in full shade. Would that have too much of a baking effect on some plants with that, or would you want to stick with maybe xeriscaping type plants or something?
I think it would. I have a similar situation, and I planted things on my west side that I thought would be great, but it is too hot over there. And even, like you said, even when the sun is gone and you're in the shade from the other house, that heat is still radiating. It doesn't cool off for them. So, mulch can help to retain the water, and that helps them to not wilt so quick and get stressed so bad. But yeah, I would find things that maybe are real heat tolerant. Like you said, the xeriscape, and not even there's a xeriscaping that's just cactuses and all of that. And then there's a xeriscaping that we have in our area that we can plant some really beautiful sages and some penstemons and some things like that are really heat tolerant and drought tolerant, but they're gorgeous. A lot of times people think that means no color and they're not pretty, but there's some really gorgeous things you can plant. And a lot of nurseries are going more to natives. So that's a good thing for us.
We've certainly hit the red yucca
Oh, yes.
trend. They are
Yeah.
everywhere. Of course, they're beautiful, they're
they are.
hardy,
Yep, they are.
but you really find those
Yeah,
everywhere.
they are. Salvia is another good one. There's some really nice nurseries around town that if you ask for anything that's, that heat resistant, and they'll help you find them.
All right.
So
Okay,
It's
so how about let's talk about plant food. Feeding
Okay.
your plants spring versus midsummer versus fall,
Okay.
or some grasses if you want to talk about that also.
Mm-hmm.
What is the best way? Do you want to start out with like a weed and feed, or
I have to say this is not my specialty.
okay?
I try to use compost, and I'm not great about knowing the different fertilizers and what percentages and the numbers and all of that. I will say that you can buy for roses, for instance, now that we're really past that February hard freeze time, now's a good time to start little by little putting a little bit on. Compost, get some compost, put that around your plants, rose fertilizer, because you want to wake them up. Water's going to wake them up. A little bit of fertilizer is going to wake them up, and tell them, it's time to start growing again, which a lot of things already are. But you can put on a rose fertilizer, compost. Now's the time to do that because it stimulates them. I already said that, but it stimulates them to grow, and then through the summer gives them that push that they need. And then in the fall, you start tapering off because you want them to go dormant. You want them to signal to the plant, it's time to start getting ready for winter.
Okay, yes,
So, does that
I'm a big
help?
rose fan,
Yeah, yeah.
but I did not know that
Yeah.
about roses, about tapering off. I just knew that you would at least do it in midsummer,
Yes.
give them a good fertilizer and maybe a systemic with it.
You
'Cause
can.
I've noticed at my house there is some kind of a rose borer. Now, what I mean
Okay.
by that is I'm not finding holes in the stems,
Yeah.
but if I prune a stem,
Yeah.
it's hollow instead of
Okay.
being
Is it
completely.
is it dead? Is the stem dead,
It
or
will die.
is it still green when you trim it?
It will eventually kill the whole
Yeah.
stem. Yeah,
Okay.
and it's some kind of insect because I've used a
I
systemic that has stopped
yeah.
it, but it always comes back.
There, and I can't remember the name of it right now, but last year, and in this area, it's becoming more common that there's a rose disease that we have to be really careful of. And I wish I could remember the name, but I can't. So it what it does is you can look for the little tiny thorns. You know how a rose will have thorns on the stem, but when they're little tiny and real close together, that is a sign of this disease. Also, the buds and the leaves are kind of misshapen, but I
Okay.
don't know about that, and I don't know what that would be. I've not
Yeah,
seen
I've
that.
asked.
I'm sure another more qualified master gardener.
Well, I don't know about that. When I first learned about it, I asked the guys up at Reed's Coulter
Oh,
Gardens
yeah.
about it, and they told me that it was some kind of an insect that's
Okay.
getting in there. And so I started using this Bayer fertilizer with the systemic built in, and it's a liquid, so that I can pour it around and I don't have to
Okay.
worry about something digging it up and
Yep.
scattering it everywhere,
Yep.
so it'll go
Yeah.
down. But that seems to work, but you have to stay on top of it, or it'll come
Yeah.
right back,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Texas A&M is a great, I mean, and we're under the ag extension and all of that. So if you go on the Texas A&M website and kind of, your Google search mentions some of those characteristics, and then Texas A&M before or after it, and just kind of keep digging, the more you see, you can get more specific in your search, and I bet you can find something in there that will help you out with that. And Texas A&M is a great resource, and they have all kinds of stuff. Every time I get on there, I find something else, and it's just amazing the resources that they have.
We even utilize them for weather.
Yeah, yeah, they're
I mean,
great.
they do. They have a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
on that note, we're going to take a very quick little break, and then
Okay.
we'll come back and see if we can't talk about maybe some ornamentals and
Okay.
other plants and ways to maybe keep them healthy through the hottest days and
Okay.
stuff like that.
All
So,
right,
we will
sounds
be
good.
right back. We're back. I always look at the monitor and not at the camera here. I'm glad this isn't actually on TV. It's more of the website and
Right,
everything. But we're back now. So we are here with Kara. We are talking about plants for springtime, ways to maybe prepare your beds and to choose the correct plants, because unfortunately there's a lot of plants that are sold like at some of the big box stores that are just not good plants for this area.
That's true.
And you go and you'll plant it thinking, yeah, it'll winter over, and it doesn't. So some of the more, I've had a lot of people asking me about this, some of the better plants or shrubs to bring in butterflies and hummingbirds.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
I About 2 years ago, I really started working on a butterfly garden. I went up to the Monarch. It's on, I have to say, it's on the KU campus, Kansas University, and it's a Monarch Watch is what the organization is called, and they have a gorgeous butterfly garden. Everything is chosen specifically for feeding butterflies, or the larval stage, or the butterfly stage, and the whole cycle, because they need some food for every stage of their life. They need nectar in the later stages, and so again, there's some really good nurseries in Canyon that have, and Amarillo that have plants chosen and designated specifically for butterflies, hummingbirds, and those other pollinators. So you can go there and try some of those. Some I know of are like the echinacea, there's a Maximilian sunflower. Greg's mist flower is a great one for just all kinds of butterflies. And something I learned this spring when I did our plant expo is that we have, if I can remember, about 10-to-1 ratio of moths to butterflies. So there's more moths than there are butterflies. And the moths will come out at night and utilize the garden and the butterflies, but you can plant the same kinds of things for both. And with our pollinators in such shortages scientifically, I don't want to use the word endangered because I don't know exactly what all of that entails, but they're in crisis, I can say that. So yeah, anything that you can plant, put out water for butterflies and moths and hummingbirds and just all those little native bees that we have, you can do that. I can't think of some specific
Honeysuckle.
things right now. Yeah, honeysuckle. Trumpet vine.
Yes.
Trumpet vine's a good one too. Again, some of those penstemons and salvias and things. And the butterflies like puddling. So sometimes you'll see when the water puddles in the summer in the dirt, the butterflies will kind of go to that and drink, and they get the minerals out of the soil and the water, from the just that little puddle right there. So that's kind of cool. And it's always a good idea to remember to take care of your soil first. This is a great time to get those soil samples sent off to see, what you need to add, or, some cotton burr compost, or I use a lot of straw because it really helps insulate the ground in the winter, and then it breaks down and, you can plant in it and everything. So always take care of your tools and your compost bins and, all of those things too.
Yeah, okay. So you brought up like a ground cover. What are your thoughts on going to the city chipping sites and just using their wood mulch?
There's a house divided. I guess we better say a house divided on this. I use them. I know that in our demonstration beds around town, we get the wood chips, the free wood chips. Some people are concerned about different bugs that are in there. So it really has to be a personal decision, and you have to make that decision through research and, checking what's best for you personally. But there's also different places. Like you could get a whole bunch, a truckload, and let them decompose, and then, use that decomposed mulch, in a year or two or 3, however long it takes for those wood chips to break down. That's an option, but it really has to be a personal choice, a personal decisions, because there's people on both sides of the aisle.
Well, it's not the prettiest mulch. It's just raw wood.
Yep.
I use it myself. My wife and I use it in our backyard in our back bed. But for our decorative beds, we go and buy a colored mulch.
Yeah.
But I can say right now that the worst that I have ever had by using the city's free mulch is you'll occasionally find a piece of wire or maybe a piece of plastic that you can just pick up. But bug-wise, I've never had any odd things because any bugs that I have found in that mulch, I'm already finding around my house.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it be termites or some kind of earwig beetles or something. But
a lot.
It breaks down good.
It does, and I've used it at my house, and I've never had any problems personally. But just have to be careful.
Yeah, I'll put it 2 to
So,
3 inches
yeah.
deep at least
Oh,
in
at
our back
least.
bed. And by the end of winter, most of it's already
Oh,
decomposed.
wow.
And then I'll
That's
go out
good.
there and I'll kind of get a 4-pronger and kind
Yes.
of churn it up a little
Yes.
bit and
Yeah.
stuff. But
Yeah.
I want to go back to butterflies real
Yeah.
quick. I'm going to tell you all a little thing that my wife and I have learned about black swallowtail
Oh,
butterflies.
yeah.
Now, you've probably seen these butterflies. They're normal butterfly size, but they're solid black and they have some blue circles that go around, and then they have that little swallowtail at the end. They love dill, fennel, and parsley. So if
Yes.
you find something in your garden that is just these worms are mowing through your dill and your parsley, if they're those real colorful zebra striped worms with all the different colors, they're going to turn into a beautiful butterfly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we plant that stuff now specifically to bring the butterflies in. And if we have a little left over for our own food,
Yeah.
we'll chop some up.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. They see these worms and they're eating their whatever, in their garden, and they just want to kill them. And you really, I mean, those are our pollinators, And so I know at the botanical gardens a couple of years ago, I went one week and they had the caterpillars for these butterflies, and they were eating the dill and everything and just full. And I went back about a week or two later, and there were none. And even though the botanical gardens don't use any killer, we'll say it like that, insecticide on those plants, the spraying around town kind of came over and got on those and killed them. So we really need to protect our pollinators and be mindful of, we're part of nature. We're part of it, and if they die, then
Oh,
we're in
yeah.
danger.
Yeah,
very
I'm so
quickly.
happy when I see honeybees
Yes.
in my backyard.
Yes.
But there's another type of bee out there that's a really good pollinator for our gardens, and it's called a mason bee. And
Yes.
you can make houses for those because I think you
Yes.
were on Studio 4 about a month
Oh,
ago,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you brought a mason bee house.
Yes.
I'll see when I put this on if I can put some pictures in there
Yeah,
and stuff. But
that'd be great. We sell those at the plant sale, and some of our master gardeners get together and make the bee houses, those mason bee houses, and sell them at our plant sale. Which, just before I forget, is going to move to Amtech Career Academy at 3601 Plains Boulevard, and that is April 25th. Yeah, 25th from 9 to 1. But we'll have them there. And and they paint them, and some of them are just plain, but some are painted really pretty. So
Yeah, and
that's
they do work.
something. They do work. And you have to clean them out in the summer, and make sure that they're ready for the mason bees and check them occasionally.
yeah,
But
that's the easy part. That's
they
just a
do.
drill bit.
Yeah. Yes.
So-
Yeah. Another thing you can do is leave sticks, and we talked about this I think earlier, but or on another session. But any little sticks and like the hollyhock stems and anything like that that you can leave on your garden in the fall, and kind of let the all of that mulch, leave it alone and leave stuff for the little insects to get in. They'll overwinter in that, and then it'll protect them. So kind of
Okay.
like the idea of the mason bee house, but you can just leave all kinds of other things and they'll
Okay,
live
yeah,
in there.
we at my house we do that. We leave
Yep.
everything standing up. We leave all the leaves in the
Yep,
beds
yep, that's
until the
smart.
very last minute,
Yep.
and we have a healthy insect population.
Good.
You know? And so, well, I think we're out of
Okay,
time here.
all right.
Kara, thank you so
Yeah,
much
thank
for
you.
coming on once again, and
Absolutely.
we'll see if we can't get you on again here in a
Yeah.
couple of months to talk about some midsummer
Okay.
practices to help out the lawn
Yeah.
and all of that
Yeah.
stuff. So, everyone, thank you, Kara.
Thank you. And come
uh,
out to our plant sale on the 25th.
All right, sounds perfect. And we
Okay.
will see you next time.
Okay, great. Thanks.